Breaking Bridget. In July, Jeff Brumfiel of NPR says that claims that COVID-19 vaccine affecting women's cycles were a lie. Now he says it's true.
Breaking news! A thing that you weren't allowed to say and would often get banned from social media for saying is now, oh, what do you know, true. And you fucking wonder why people are vaccine hesitant. This is like the lab leak theory. Women from the get were saying that this was happening to them. And they were talking about it in groups. I had it happen to me. I've talked about it on Rogan. Maybe not, maybe, but that's the first time I haven't had a period in 3 months in my entire life. So it's definitely a strange coincidence. And then when I would say things to nurses in particular, not so much OBs, although there are OBs who are like, yeah, on the DL. But nurses would be like, oh, just throw away lines. Like, everyone's period is messed up from the vaccine. I'm like, everyone? Don't you think we should be talking about this? And again, what bothers me about this is that women have come so far and they're now being told they need to get vaccinated when they're pregnant, and they've fought for trying to have their own medical freedom to make these decisions because they were often made for them and against their will. But also, I thought we were past the point where a woman talking about something that was going on with her was considered a hysterical conspiracy theorist, which is what people told me when I would mention what actually happened to me. I'm like, we're going backwards.
Right.
We're fucking going backwards with women. And it drives me insane because if you want people to feel confident in getting a vaccine, for instance, you have to be able to talk about the side effects. We have been raised with big pharma commercials with laundry lists of fucking side effects.
Right.
And now they're trying to say also that this is like the equivalent. In one of the articles, they're like, oh, it's just like the equivalent of a sore arm. I'm like, get some. Women's fertility cycles and hormones and ovaries, these are like the seat of our hormones. They affect so much. They affect your mood. They affect weight loss. It affects everything. And you're acting like, and a woman's fertility is a big deal. And you're acting like it's a fucking sore arm side effect. Like, it's so, again, minimizing, and it makes me emotional because there are so many women who were told that they were just crazy for saying this, and now it's like, oh, guess what? You guys were right.
Yep.
Remember all those chats that we banned? I mean, there are stories of women coming out of menopause, women who aren't getting periods for a long time, women who get their period and can't stop bleeding. It's not just like, oh, I was late for my period. It's like there's all kinds of weird shit. And I feel like you should be able to talk about it. And instead, they're afraid to talk about any of it because they don't want to make people vaccine hesitant. But maybe they should be vaccine hesitant. They're like, well, it will mess with your period, but you should still get it. I'm like, this seems just like some throwaway thing. Like, it's so frustrating to me.
Don't be silly, you hysterical woman, which even hysterical is a misogynistic term.
I think people became so hell-bent on convincing people to get vaccinated that we swept any adverse health conditions under the rug, or any potential adverse health conditions or outcomes under the rug. And now it's backfiring, right? Because they're all proving to be sort of true, or at least have some validity. So anybody that was on the fence about getting vaccinated is like, well,
it definitely makes you more vaccine hesitant than less. So when you ban people who are speaking out against this stuff, when you make people disappear who are saying things about their periods, there were whole like Reddit thread, there were whole things that just got disappeared. Facebook pages where women were talking about this, deleted. And if you take this anecdotal evidence and then just dismiss it, and I think you see a lot of this stuff too around like myocarditis, it doesn't make people more confident if you're disappearing the doctors who are pushing back against this from social media, censoring them. It makes people more suspicious.
Right.
So instead of bringing this stuff out into the light and saying, yeah, here are the risks, and allowing people to evaluate the vaccines on their merits based on their own personal health and conditions, like somebody evaluating this who's overweight, has diabetes, might be elderly, might be looking at this differently than a 20-year-old. And now they're making all these healthy 20-year-olds get boosted to go back to college when they've all had Omicron multiple times. So many of the 20-year-olds I know have had COVID more than once, and it barely even affects them.
the thing too, I feel like even myocarditis got like some news coverage, and like there was still some like sort of health scare about it, of like a ripple effect. Whereas this, I just feel like there was a collective silence of like, oh, it's affecting women's periods, whatever, that's not a big deal.
Yeah,
like there was no discuss, like, other than like hearing stories from women, there was no coverage of it whatsoever.
No, and even the way they discuss it, like it's the same as a sore arm, that drives me insane, just trying to say that these things are the same thing. It's funny, I was in the very early days when this was coming out, and I was hearing that other women had gone through this. They're like, oh, we don't know how the vaccine affects women, because affects a woman's fertility, because we never even thought to study how COVID affects their fertility. So they didn't even look at how COVID was affecting women's fertility. I'm like, this is 2022 and still women are just like an afterthought in medicine. It's fucking crazy to me. Drives me insane, all of it. Having a period is the most masculine thing you can do.
Go f*** yourself.